Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi y'all, this is Jerry Williams, aka TV Jerry. The RVA Faith and Film Forum event that was postponed is coming back on Friday, March 21st from 8 to 10 a.m. at the Busey House, 2705 Park Avenue on the backside of First Baptist Church. The speaker will be Amanda Russell, the co-founder, creative director, and motion design ambassador for Cream Studio, a prominent local animation company, which is especially appropriate considering this week's interview is with another animator. I'll have a link to tickets to the event on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com. That was an excerpt from a commercial for Luden's Cough Drops with the soundtrack by Frank Zappa. It's one of more than 50 animated TV commercials from 1948 to 1993 that are featured in a compilation that'll be shown at this year's James River Film Festival, which runs March 19th through 23rd. My guest today is Janet Scagnelli, who made her career as an animator for dozens of commercials and more. She's created this show, A History of Animated TV Commercials, that not only displays a variety of hand-drawn and puppet animation, but reflect the culture of each decade. It'll be screened Sunday, March 23rd, 3:30 p.m. at the VMFA. I'll have a link to tickets on the webpage for the show at tvjerry.com.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Deli Boys on Hulu. The Pakistani immigrant who runs a chain of successful convenience stores suddenly dies, leaving his two spoiled, hapless sons to run the business. Pretty quickly, they discover that the delis are a front for organized crime. This is one of the most enjoyable comedies out right now, as the brothers, Asif Ali and Sagar Sheikh, capture the chemistry, confusion, and comic core of the series. Poorna Jagannathan is equally enjoyable as their no-nonsense aunt, while Tim Baltz as the FBI director and Jake Brisant as the emotional assistant provide two quirky additions. Showrunner Michelle Nader, best known for Two Broke Girls, shows appreciation for the culture while keeping the energy lively and providing a solid base of foolish and funny. It's not a typically hilarious sitcom, but a smart and sweet crime comedy. I gave Deli Boys 4 out of 5 stars. Janet Scagnelli, welcome to Sifter for the Ear. I just actually met you just last week at a show at ArtSpace, and here we are on the podcast.
I'm happy to see you at the show and happy to be here.
Obviously, that show was paintings that you had done, but you started your career in animation. Were you like a kid who drew, and were you an artist when you were young, and then that segued? How did you get into animation?
As young as I could imagine, 7 years old, I was drawing and copying like Dennis the Menace comic books. So we're in New York, Bronx, and my older sister worked at Terry Toons, which was in New Rochelle, and he did Mighty Mouse, Tom Terrific.
Yeah, I used to remember watching those on TV back in the 50s.
Yes. Yeah. So she was working there, and she would bring work home and say, "You can do this. I have overtime work." So.
And how old were you at that point? You weren't still 7.
13.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Animation historically is you animate on paper first, registered, and then you transfer that to acetate. So you ink the front of the acetate, and then you paint the back with an acrylic paint that's kind of like yogurt, so it lays down really flat and opaque.
But not as delicious.
No. So you can have a background that's painted, and then you can have levels on top of that. So you might have a person walking in on one level, a bird flying in on the other level. So that's why you're on acetate, and you can level up to 4 levels.
You know, it's interesting. I have to mention that because, as you may or may not know, I did a documentary on Dirt Woman. And my good friend and your friend, Matt Lively, created about a dozen little animations for that. And he only gave them in 3 layers. So we would have, like you said, maybe the background would be moving and Dirt Woman would be walking the opposite direction. So actually that technique was actually used in the Dirt Woman documentary. And I know you know Matt.
That's cool. I didn't know that. And I mean, that is the way animation was done from the 20s, 30s, maybe, up till computer animation.
Right.
That's when they stopped. Yeah, so I guess I was started off painting the back. That's the lowest level you could come in at on animation. So in New York City, you'd have all the ad agencies in Midtown, and all these little small animation companies would be all scattered around, mostly on 45th Street, and they were getting all the commercials to do. So what people like me would do with freelance. And, I'd work at one till the commercial was over, and then I moved to the next. It was all commercials. I did that all through college, art history degree. But I came home after that, and I knew if I got a job in animation, I loved it. I didn't expect that that would be my career, but it turned out to be. So I worked in a lot of studios around New York, and then I opened my own place.
Now, before we go to your own place, I want to, and of course, you're coming to the James River Film Festival to show a bunch of animated commercials. Did you animate any of those yourself when you were out working?
Yes, not that I animated those. The ones that are in there, I inked, painted, did backgrounds. So I included them in this compilation. And so I asked the studios that I was working for if I could borrow their reel and put together this show. I had the beginnings of computer animation, and I decided to take all that out and just put in only hand-drawn cell animations.
And some stop motion too, right?
Stop motion or it's all handmade stuff.
So your company in New York was called Chelsea Animation, so I guess you were in Chelsea. Are there some jobs you did there that people might remember or recognize?
It's kind of all a blur, but I would say I worked on like AT&T, Exxon, beer commercials, 7-Up.
I know there's some of the ones like Doug, Ren and Stimpy.
Oh,
Did you work?
well, yeah. Okay, so that's not commercials, but
Oh, right.
I did Sesame Street things and MTV. I worked on the first MTV commercial for Stridex. We did that. And I did some MTV interstitials, where the 10-second pieces.
Right.
Footnote.
Interstitials are short ads that show up to promote a show.
Nickelodeon asked for 5 pilots that were like 8 minutes long. And out of that, they picked 3 to go to production. So I worked on Doug.
Mm-hmm.
I did the pilot.
Footnote.
Doug was a popular animated sitcom that started on Nickelodeon in 1991 and ran through 1999.
That show got picked, as we know. And then all that work goes overseas. But then my job became to pick the colors for every character.
No, let me ask you about that. You mentioned something, and we'll get back to some of the other stuff because I know you've done some other interesting projects. You mentioned once you created it here, then they went to overseas, and I know that still happens almost all the time. How do you feel about that? I mean, I guess it's cheap.
It was sad that it had to leave the country, and they made a lot of cultural mistakes in some of
Oh, really? Can you think of an example of some time when they misinterpreted our culture?
I think there was one with like 2 football team. It was a football game, and they didn't understand who would be on what team.
That's just like me. I don't know either. So.
But luckily, we have their uniforms tell us who's on what side. But they painted teams the wrong color.
Oh, wow.
It was funny little stories, but I don't remember a lot of them.
Did you work on Ren and Stimpy?
What I got to work on was the interstitials. So it would be like a 10-second ad for Ren and Stimpy on Nickelodeon.
Footnote.
The Ren and Stimpy Show was an animated comedy series that ran on Nickelodeon from 1991 to 1996. Oh, cool. Okay. Didn't you have a company, Cell Restoration Company, for that?
That was my second business. A guy called me up one day and said, "Can you match colors?" And so he came over with a Dumbo cell, and the paint that they used back in the 40s to paint cells was a water-based paint. And when the acetate over time would, weather, humidity, it would bend and the paint would just crackle off.
Right.
So he wanted to know if I could fix one of these cells for him and just match that paint and paint it back in. And I thought, what are you doing? Who are you? And what's this about? And it turned out that Sotheby's and Christie's, they were selling these cells that you'd buy in Disneyland for like $2 back then because they were throwing them away.
Right.
But now they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes.
Wow. Yeah. So you didn't actually buy and sell them. You used a
I was
conservatorship.
storing them. And there were only 2 of us in the world doing it. There was
Wow.
a guy in LA, and then I created my business in New York. So I was the only person doing this.
So how did you end up in Richmond?
I met a guy in Gas Fest in New Orleans. He said he was from Richmond, and I said, "So where is that?" So
Oh,
I was
really?
such a Manhattan person.
Oh, yeah, really? Such a New Yorker.
I was a New Yorker. And I said, I don't go south of Newark. Anything south is the South, except for Miami. I never thought I'd leave New York City.
And what'd you think once you got here?
Oh my God.
Culture shock, maybe?
It was so slow. And there was no good bread and there were no bagels. But little by little, I changed and Richmond changed. And it's okay. I remember Ukrop's, the checkout lady was like, and how are you today? And all I wanted to say is, what's it to you, lady? Or just like going,
They're so friendly and helpful here. Yeah, yeah.
no,
That's
like,
great.
what does she want? She wants something.
What are some of the jobs you worked on when you were working out of Richmond?
I was doing Sesame Street pieces.
These are like little animations, like 3, those kind of things.
Yes, here and there.
Here and there? You did here and there?
I did here and there. It was funny. It's very
Great.
sweet.
You mentioned earlier you stopped this series in computers. Are you still hardcore old school analog, or did you ever get to do anything with computers, or you say, nope, never?
No, never.
Wow, good for you.
One of the things that I can't even tell you how many I did of commercials would be a live action commercial, let's say for a detergent. And it's live action, and all of a sudden they cut to a close up of the weave of fabric, and there's the dirt that's dissolving. Well, that's animation. We all did thousands of those little, you just get hired for the insert. Teeth that had dirt on them. Shaving with follicles of hair popping off. That was a whole market in itself.
Wow, wow.
Surprise guest drop in.
You're going to be showing these commercials at the James River Film Festival this year. Speaking of that, Mike Jones, the man from the festival, is here to say hello and give us a little update about this year's festival. Mike, how are you?
Hi, Jerry. And hey, Janet.
Hi, Mike.
I know you wanted to talk about this 31st year and some of the other things that are going to be going on this year.
Well, Jerry, we're just happy to be around for 31 years. And to tell you the truth, after 550 some programs, 160 some artists, we're still a community supported organization. We still count on the community to support us. I think we're one of the most collaborative arts organizations probably in the city, having been around for 31 years. And we've done events at over 40 venues, Gary, 40 venues.
Wow.
So we've got a couple of guests coming in besides our local talent, Janice Scagnelli. We've got Gary Lucas coming in. Gary's a 6-time guest. He just loves us. He's a world-class, world-renowned guitarist, and he's coming back, and he's going to be doing a live score to Todd Browning's Freaks at the Bird.
And let me just mention, by the way, he also was in Captain Beefheart.
That's right. He's in Captain Beefheart. Currently, he's reviving Gods and Monsters. And monsters are big with him. He often does things to horror shows. We also have Tim Lucas again, guest curator, cult critic, and Mario Bava expert. Tim Lucas will be curating our Mario Bava Fest 2.
Footnote.
Mario Bava was an Italian filmmaker who was known for his visually distinctive, low-budget genre films. He was called the master of Italian horror.
We're playing Lisa and the Devil with Telly Savalas. Remember Kojak with the sucker?
Of course.
Yeah, he does that same thing. He plays Satan. He's the devil. He's got the sucker in his mouth. It's really creepy.
Great.
And we're also showing Hercules in the Haunted World, one of the most beautiful pre-psychedelic color films, 1960, that you'll ever see. We're also playing Anna Biller's film, The Love Witch. We tried to get Miss Biller to come as a guest this year, but she's busy shooting her next project, like many indie artists are. And hopefully we'll get her next year. But The Love Witch it's one of those independent films that rocks your world, like Liquid Sky or Eraserhead. You've never seen anything quite like it and how to describe it. It's a cross between John Waters and Cindy Sherman.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a beautiful mise-en-scène set pieces. And yeah, we've got a whole bookload of attractions. We got 13 events. Also, the Georgia O'Keeffe movie at the museum.
Right. I did a podcast on that, and I will include a link on my webpage to my podcast so people can hear.
Yeah, you interviewed Paul and Ellen last fall, I believe, right?
Yeah, Paul Wagner, yeah.
We're also bringing back the Ann Arbor Film Festival, which used to visit here regularly in VCU.
I remember that.
Yes, it was the highlight of the year. You go for 2 or 3 nights at the Business Build Auditorium. And so we're bringing back part of that tour. Maybe we'll make that a regular in the future, and also a documentary on the late Ornette Coleman, the great sax player. So we've got a lot of different stuff like usual.
Sounds great. Terrific. And obviously I will have a link on the webpage to all of this information, and they can, if somebody wants to look it up themselves and doesn't want to go to the webpage, it is
JamesRiverFilm.org.
Well, Mike, I thank you so much for dropping in, I'm excited about some of these. I'm definitely coming to see Freaks because that's such a wonderful, bizarre film, and so many people don't even know it. And here at a company, that's going to be a cool event. So I'm definitely coming to that one.
Yeah, and don't let the thing Freaks scare people off because it's probably one of the warmest. It's got a lot of humanity in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just a horror film. Like all horror films, humanity's at the core.
All righty. Well, thank you for dropping in.
All right.
What made you decide, hey, I want to put this on and show it at the festival? And tell us what it is first, too.
Yeah, I had this feeling that all these commercials that I've worked on and other people's commercials that I admired, nobody really paid attention to that stuff. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to gather old ones and up till, I just like the hand-drawn stuff and gather them together and show them. So it's a 1-hour compilation. It starts off with some theatrical commercials like Pepsi and...
Now, what do you mean by theatrical? You mean they were in the movie theaters?
They were longer. They show them in theaters. And then, so you have your early 50s with those housewives with the little tiny waist and the big skirt and the high heels.
Here's an average housewife in her nice, quiet home. Peaceful. Restful, isn't it? How can she look so fresh, so clean?
It's a snap when you use Dial soap. You feel like you just stepped out of a shower. Hour after hour after hour. Wonderful Dial soap.
And then it moves into the jazz, the amazing jazz tracks that they hired jazz musicians to animate the commercial to them, like Philip Morris. There's some soda pops commercials, Uptown Soda.
Now, you mentioned musicians. I know there's one that you've got some Frank Zappa composition in.
Yes, and these guys that I worked for at one point, Ed Seaman, Ray Favada, and Paul Spargano, they decide they want to do a Luden's cough drop commercial. And Ed knows that Frank Zappa is playing regularly downtown somewhere in some club. And he gets him for like a couple of $1,000s to do the soundtrack. And he makes this commercial that's a guy coughing, and it's just this like scribble, and there's all the sound around it. And that was Frank Zappa. Who would know? Nobody would ever know. So,
well, actually that's not true because I wouldn't have known it if you hadn't told me. But once I started hearing it, it changed my life. Mothers of Invention, the first album, and Absolutely Free. And you hear some of that same kind of stuff on those.
But you wouldn't think he'd be doing it.
No, heavens no, no. And Gene Wilder did voiceover for one of them?
Oh, the Alka-Seltzer, the Blahs. It's a gorgeous commercial. Those years, you always had this like a therapist voice, come on, we can get along. The voice changed, the narrator early on was this get tied, lady. Then it moves into the 70s, weird voices, wacky drawings.
So what is it about this compilation of all these commercials that you found so fascinating?
What I feel is fascinating about the show is, one, that people who are older, who might remember a lot of these, they're going to love it just out of that kind of reminiscing.
Sure.
And younger people will see that how commercials are picking up the culture of the moment. It's so clear. You can name the decade that each one of these are made in.
Yeah, like you said, the 50s, the woman, the housewife, the classic housewife, cooking and cleaning.
Right. And the jazz tracks. I mean, that's like hip hop today or rap. The commercials today use the music of today. That was the music that was cutting edge then.
One question I always like to ask everybody when you're not working on your paintings or reminiscing about these animations, what do you like to watch? Have you seen the new Wallace and Gromit, by the way? It's great.
I want to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Footnote.
Wallace and Gromit is a British animation franchise about a good-natured inventor and his loyal beagle. Their latest is Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul.
No, I don't watch TV anymore.
Oh, okay. I have to say, one of my all-time favorites, I still watch it every week, is The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Apparently you don't like The Simpsons from that reaction.
I liked it, but I don't watch. I wasn't watching TV when they were on. I don't know what. I was in New York. I stopped watching television. I think I admire them.
Well, Janet, this has been great. I love finding out about these. The commercials, I've seen a couple of them. They are hilarious and fascinating and beautiful. So it's going to be showing at the James River Film Festival. That's the only chance, right?
That's the only chance to see it. One time, I'm going to come in, talk about it, put my 1 hour compilation up, take it down, and take it home. So here's your chance, everybody.
There you go.
I think because I've told people at the Martin Agency and the Brand Center, I think it's going to sell out.
Yeah, sounds like it. So people should get on it soon. Well, Janet, thank you so much for this.
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for asking, and see you again. Now I know what you look like.
There you go. Yeah. That was longtime animator Janet Scagnelli, who's presenting a compilation of more than 50 animated TV commercials from 1948 to 1993. They'll be shown at this year's James River Film Festival on March 23rd at 3:30 p.m. at the VMFA, and I'll have a link on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Black Bag. The latest from Steven Soderbergh stars Cate Blanchett as an intelligence agent who is suspected of betraying the nation, while her husband agent, Michael Fassbender, must decide whether to be loyal to her or his country. Novocaine. Jack Quaid plays a man who can't feel physical pain, which comes in handy when he has to rescue his kidnapped girlfriend. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Porky Pig and Daffy Duck are the Earth's only hope from an alien invasion. Opus. Best known for her role on The Bear, Io Edeberry plays a writer who travels to the estate of a pop star who's been missing for 30 years, with John Malkovich, Juliette Lewis, and Tony Hale. Borderline. In another pop star flick, a bodyguard protects her and her athlete boyfriend from a stalker in 1990's Los Angeles, from Jimmy Warden, who wrote Cocaine Bear. The Last Supper. Gearing up for Easter comes this biblical film.
TV and streaming.
The Electric State on Netflix. An orphaned teenager traverses the American West with a sweet but mysterious robot and an eccentric drifter in search for her younger brother. From the Russo brothers with Chris Pratt, Woody Harrelson, and Millie Bobby Brown. Good American Family on Hulu. A Midwestern couple adopts what they believe is a little girl with dwarfism, but things get complicated, with Imogen Faith Reed and Mark Duplass. The Residents on Netflix. Uzo Aduba stars in this series that takes place inside the White House's staff residence and the lives workers share with the First Family. Odessa on Hulu. A farm girl is in search of a cherished family heirloom. She travels to a strange and dangerous city where she meets one true love. Dope Thief on Apple. Follows longtime friends and delinquents who pose as DEA agents to rob a house in the countryside, but unintentionally end up revealing the biggest hidden narcotics corridor on the eastern seaboard, with Brian Tyree Henry. The first episode was directed by Ridley Scott. The Twister, Caught in the Storm on Netflix. The class of 2011 is about to graduate when their town of Joplin, Missouri is hit by a rare EF5 tornado. Bill Burr, Drop Dead Years on Hulu. The comic's latest special. Happy Face on Paramount Plus, the story of a 15-year-old girl who discovers that her father was a serial murderer known as the Happy Face Killer, with Annalee Ashford and Dennis Quaid. Yellowstone on Paramount Plus. For those like me waiting for the second half of Season 5 to stream, here it is. Anora on Hulu, my pick and the Oscars pick for Best Film of the Year. You know, you can subscribe to this podcast on the usual platforms, or go to TV Jerry, click on the podcast tab, and there's a link to enroll. Next week, meet local photographer Kent Eanes, who spent the majority of his career shooting stills for movies and TV shows. It's an informative interview with great stories about shooting with Rob Lowe, Paul Giamatti, Martin Sheen, and more. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.